What's happening, music and mental health family? I'm really thinking about starting a podcast. Really thinking about starting a podcast. I want to do that because I feel like these morning topics that come to my mind are like hundreds of podcast topics. Somebody one time asked me, "Oh, where's the blueprint that you have, or where's the map?" Would you believe that basically almost everything I talk about, unless it's a TV show in which I take notes for that, I just think about it and then I can talk about it for an hour, 2 hours, however long I feel like it. That's how it goes. So if I created a list of podcast topics and started recording them, I think that would be cool. I think I'm going to start. I think I'm going to start doing that. But that's neither here nor there. So this topic is based on a conversation I had the other day with my sister. And the conversation was about work specifically and when to speak up and when to let things go. So, just something about myself that people wouldn't know just from being online. I do what I want to do. Now, I remember in my earlier days, I allowed people to make me think that doing what I want to do makes me a rebel. Because they're like, oh, he's rebellious because we tell him to do this and he doesn't do it. No, it's not that you tell me to do something and I don't do it. It's like you tell me to do something and I don't do it automatically because I want to know why it's being done. If you tell me something that just does not resonate with my spirit or just does not make sense, I want you to explain it to me. Explain why I should do this. And after you've explained it and I've listened to you, if it makes sense, I'm going to do it wholeheartedly. But if you're just like, do this because I'm the person in charge and that's the rule, I'm going to figure out an alternative to that. So I want to give a couple of examples dating back to when I was in high school. I could think of one specific example. Back in my high school days, I had a big afro. I always liked to grow my hair, much to the chagrin of my mom. She always wanted me to cut my hair. And my dad, he wanted me to cut my hair too. But I used to have this big afro that I would walk around with. And the style at that time. You know how styles kind of recirculate? So a 70s style of having like a big afro and then having an afro pick in your hair, that style was like resurfacing for us in the late 90s to early 2000s. So I remember I would walk around, I would always have my afro pick in my hair. And it was just, that was the style. That was the style. No other teachers ever said anything about me having this afro pick in my hair. One, there's one particular teacher, and funny enough, it was an African teacher, right? And I'm African. I have an African side of my family. There's this one particular teacher that was like, you can't wear or have that comb in your hair in my class. And I was like, all right. So when it came to her particular class, I would take that comb out of my hair, put it in my backpack or put it in my pocket or whatever. Just make sure that she didn't see it because that was her rule. And one day I forgot because, like I said, all the other teachers allowed the afro pick in my hair. So I had to actually specifically think to myself, oh, now I'm in this teacher's class. I have to take the afro pick out of my hair because she hates that for some reason. So this was one of the first times I can remember being in a situation where I could either just said nothing and done nothing and did what the teacher said, or stand on business, right? So if you heard what I said earlier, I've been a stand on business person from the time I was a child, because this was probably when I was about 13 or so. So what happened was I had the comb in my hair. I had the Afro pick in my hair that day because I forgot. And over my desk and said, "Give me that comb." And I said, I'm sorry. I forgot the comb in my hair. So can I just put the comb away and you won't see it again? I promise." And she said, "No, I already told you one time before, and this is time number 2. So give me your comb, and I'm going to lock the comb in the drawer, and you can get it back at the end of the semester." And this was the beginning of the semester. She was telling me this, mind you. Now, that might not sound like a big deal to y'all. It's a comb. Like, you're probably thinking, what does a comb cost? $5? You could just go get another comb. Give her the comb. You broke the rule. Get another comb. The thing was, it was a big deal at that time because I was 13 years old. I did not have a job. I did not have money. My parents were out of the country. I was living in a dorm. I was going to this school that the nearest store that I would even be able to get this comb was off campus, and we had really strict off campus rules. So it was a big deal for me not to have my comb, especially because I had this big afro that needed to be combed multiple times a day to keep it from getting tangled. I find that to be a stupid rule. Like, the teacher told me that she was like, your personal grooming should be done in your bathroom. I didn't consider having the comb in my hair as grooming. Like, if I was sitting there in the class or something, picking out my hair, then I could see her being like, you can't do that in the class. But it was just sitting in my hair. The comb was just sitting in my hair. So she stood at the desk and she was making a scene. She was like, "No, you have to give me the comb. I told you the rule. You have to give me the comb." And I said, "No, I already told you. I'm sorry I had the comb in my hair. I need my comb. I apologize. I'll take whatever punishment you give me." And she was just like, "Oh, really? So here's your 2 options." She said, "Your 2 options are you put this comb in my hand right now, or you go to the principal's office." And I was like, "All right." I took the comb, I held the comb in my hand, and I put my backpack on, and I was like, I'm headed to the principal's office. She's like, "I'm gonna call the principal and confirm that you're there." I'm like, "You call the principal. We're gonna have a conversation." And again, mind you, I'm 13 at this time. So I go into the principal's office. The principal has just spoken to her on the phone. And then the principal is like, "Mark, why are you in here?" I said, "Beats me." And he was just like, "No, seriously, Mark, like, what reason are you actually in here?" Because I spoke to the teacher and this doesn't make no sense. Like, he was mad that I was in for that comb. So basically, I said, I had my comb in my hair. I always have my comb in my hair. I always have my Afro pick sticking in my hair. None of the other teachers ever said anything about it. She said something about it once. "Don't bring the comb to class." And I forgot that it was in my hair, honestly, because none of the other teachers cared that it was in my hair. So she came over to my desk and said, "Give me this comb right now, and I'm going to take it for the rest of the semester, or you can go to the principal's office." And I was like, unless she was going to provide me with another comb, I am not giving up my comb because I had it sitting in my hair. That doesn't make no sense to me. So the principal was like, just looking at me like, almost like, this is a ridiculous thing for you to be in this office for. So What happened was he talked to her after he spoke to me. He came back to me and he said, "You can keep the comb if you apologize to the teacher for trying to embarrass her and show her up." And I said, "In what way was I trying to embarrass her? When she was teaching the class, she stopped teaching the class to walk over to my desk and to tell me to give her the comb, and she refused to continue with the class until I either gave her the comb or left the classroom to go to the principal's office." She was making an embarrassment and a spectacle out of me, not the other way around. I apologized to her immediately for having the comb in my hair because I'm like, I know that's your rule. I didn't remember that it was in there. I'm sorry. I didn't say it sarcastically. I wasn't trying to be rude or anything. I was just stating the facts of the matter. And then she was just like, "No, give me the comb. Give me the comb or else." That was how it happened. So I was like, you know what? I will apologize for having the comb in class, which I already did, but I will do it again. I'll apologize for having the comb in class. And I will not ever bring that comb into her class again. So we ended up negotiating that. That's what the principal allowed me to do. So me, the principal, and the teacher were all in a room. I said to the teacher, I said, "I'm very sorry." Like I said to her, actually, like I told you in the classroom, because she couldn't dispute this. I said, "Like I told you in the classroom, I'm very sorry that I had the comb in my hair in your class because I know that is something that you do not like or allow." I said, "I was not trying to groom my hair. I just wear my comb in my hair. I didn't mean any kind of disrespect. And I need my comb." That's that. So she was like, "I accept your apology." So after this whole thing, I got to keep the comb. Now, this goes against conventional wisdom. And when I say conventional wisdom, I know that if I had brought that same thing to my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my aunt, anyone from that generation before me, and told them of what happened, they would have just said, "Give up the comb, give up the comb, and then get yourself another comb. Don't bring it to class anymore because it's not worth all that." But to me, it was worth all that. It was worth all that because it was important for me to have the comb, and I thought the rule was excessive, kind of wild actually. And at the end, it was brought to the principal. The principal was essentially an adjudicator in this situation. And based on the fact that my comb was not taken away from me, um, he thought that I was right. I know a lot of men who wore their combs in their hair because they didn't want. Oh yeah, probably especially when you had the metal ones. Mine was like a plastic one, but yeah, I had one of the plastic one. I had a metal one too, but the one that I had in my hair at that time, it was one of those black plastic ones that had like the fist as the comb handle. But yeah, based on the fact that the principal did not make me give her the comb, I knew that that was basically an admission from him that she was pretty much wrong in there, but he had to, I guess, protect his staff in some way. So making me apologize again was kind of like, all right, I can't just go in there and be like, "Oh, Mark was right. Let this go." So I did my end of the bargain. But yeah, that was one of my first stand on business things. And before you say that's not a big deal, everything is relative, meaning it was a huge deal for me at that time. It was a massive deal for me at that time. Now, let me see. I had a couple of other things. The conversation me and my sister had was about standing on business in the work environment. So I remember when I was about 18, 19 or so, and I got one of my first jobs, one of my first on the books jobs, because I was working since I was 10 for real, but on the books when I was working for the first time. I worked at Sears men's department, men's clothing department. So the job was called a merchandising and customer assistant. So what happened? This was during the era where they started to merge these minimum wage jobs and try to make them sound fancy. Because I don't know what you would think of when you hear merchandising and customer assistance, but that sounds like a fancy title. It just means that they combined stocking the floor and also customer service. So you would have to stock the floor, and there was no customer service department. You, as the stocker, was the customer service department. So that meant that you would be fixing everything on the shelves, folding the clothes, organizing the racks, putting things back where they belong. And then if a customer was at the cash register complaining, instead of the cashier dealing with it, they would call you on the PA system. And then you would have to leave whatever you were doing and come there to address the angry customer, which was wild to me, to get paid some $7 and something an hour to do that. But anyways, good morning. Good morning, Amina, by the way. Good morning, Amina and Colleen. But anyways, I remember this one particular day. The manager at that job hated me. She hated me so much that she even called me a different name. Like, she asked me day one what my name was, and I told her Mark, and she used to call me Marcos. And it wasn't like a nickname, like a term of endearment, like, you know how you have a name and somebody who just likes you calls you like a nickname or something. It wasn't something like that. It was just disrespect. Like, you told me your name is Mark, but I'm going to continue to call you Marcos no matter how many times you correct me. So she hated the speed at which I fixed up the shelves and folded the clothes, and she would let me know her disdain like every day. So this one day, I think it was one of the holidays, where there was just an influx of a whole bunch of customers that particular day. And you know, when customers come into a retail store, especially during a holiday, they're just taking everything and throwing it everywhere. Pick this up, put it over there, unfold everything, unfold the whole stack of pants, throw the shirts on the floor. It was just a nightmare in the department. So she came over to me and she was like, "Oh, I don't like the way you fold the shirts. Why do you do this so slow?" She was just nagging me. And then she says to me, "I can't believe your mother raised such a stupid child." That's okay, Amina. I just jumped into responding to what you said without even saying good morning myself. Yes, she said, "I can't believe your mother raised such a stupid child." And I'm sitting there shocked that this lady would say this to me. Like, it's a crazy thing to say, whether at or whether personal, but she actually said a personal thing like that at work. So I remember I ended up calling my mom because I was about to say something crazy to this lady as a response. Crazy. And you would think that, especially saying something like that, that telling my mom that, she would be like, "Oh no, you need to not stand for that. Like, you can't let somebody talk to you like that." But instead, my mom's response was like, "Oh," she said, "Did she really say that? Like, did she really say those exact words verbatim?" And I was like, "Yeah, I wouldn't be calling you if she didn't say those exact words verbatim." So it tells me, "Oh, don't address her right now. Just don't talk to her for the rest of your shift, except to say yes, no, whatever you have to say. But talk to her at a minimal level, and then go to HR and make an HR report." And I was like, I don't even want to do the HR report. I want to address her like now. So this was a case of me kind of not really standing on business because I was looking to my parents for guidance. Like, what would you do in this scenario? So that's what I did. I went back in there. I did not address the comment at that time. I went into HR the next day and I was like, I want to report this comment that my manager made to me yesterday on my shift. And they were like, okay, what's that? I said, I was folding clothes, I was doing my job. And then my manager said, I can't believe I can't believe your mother raised such a stupid child. They were like, she said that? Like, verbatim? They basically responded the same way how my mom responded. Like, did she actually say that word for word? Is that a quote? I said, yes, that is an exact quote. And if you don't believe me, some of my coworkers were around when she said it. You can ask them yourself. So they said, okay, how do you want us to handle this? I'm like, mind you, this is my first ever experience with HR in my life. So aside from, signing me up for the job, but I mean, this is my first ever experience to that point, making an HR complaint. So when they said, how do you want to handle this? I'm like, y'all are HR. Y'all are supposed to be giving me the options of how you handle these type of things. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, what can you offer me? Hi, Cass. I'm getting there. Okay, so yeah, so I went to the HR. I went to HR, I reported it. They asked how I wanted to handle it. And they essentially said, we can talk to her. They said the first thing they suggested when I told them I don't know what I want them to do, they were like, okay, we can have a mediated meeting. I'm like, I don't want to have a mediated meeting. So they were like, okay, if you don't want to do that, what we can do is we can talk to her about the situation, and then um, we'll follow up with you and see what happens after that. So that's what they did. I guess they spoke to her. So we were having like this lunch that we got that was sponsored by Sears or whatever. And I remember she walked up to me during the lunch and she's like, I'm sorry that you're so soft. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I'm sorry that you're so soft that, a joke that I was giving you, I was just trying to be funny, that I would tell any of my workers, you were so soft that you couldn't take it. So you had to run to HR to complain about me and file a complaint against me. It's like, I'm sorry for that. I promise you that I will never talk to you specifically like that ever again, because I know that you can't handle that. And I was sitting there again with my jaw on the floor, because I'm sitting here like, that's the solution? Like, that's what they came up with? And then from there, right, I could have gone back to HR and been like, this is what she said in her apology. And then we have a back and forth and a back and forth, right? So generally, I'm with, okay, go to HR, document, all that stuff. But in this particular type of case, I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of factors to be weighed in here. Number one, I'm working a minimum wage job. So I don't need to be at that job, quite frankly. Because this is how my brain would be thinking if something like that happened to me today. I'm working a job that is not paying my living expenses. This is some $7 and change job where I'm not here to take anyone's verbal abuse, right? I'm not saying that I should have made a crazy scene or something like that, but I am saying that revisionist history, I would have told her, even before I got to the HR part, I would have told her, like, that was an extremely disrespectful thing to say. And I would like to receive an apology for that. I would have told her that. I might have gone to HR also, but I definitely would have told her that in that moment. And again, that goes against conventional wisdom. That goes against what my parents and their generation would tell me to do. That goes against what some of y'all think would be the right thing to do. But I always kind of do what feels right for me. And these kind of things, these kind of situations are what shaped my value system, especially within the work environment. Now, I will give one other example of something where I almost shot myself in the foot, and luckily I had somebody talk me out of it. I was at a job where I was accused of stealing, and this was a job that I was working with for a while. Everybody knew me and they knew my character, and here I was working the job, and then I was approached by my boss, and they didn't directly say that I stole, but they said, "Oh, this certain thing went missing, and you were last seen around it. So might you know where that thing is?" I was like, "No, I don't." So at first, I didn't even really take that too offensively because I didn't really think that I was being accused of taking it for real. I thought that it was just like, did you see anybody? If you see something, say something. I thought it was that type of thing until this boss of mine circled back to me a second time, a third time, a fourth time. "Hey, Mark, are you sure you don't know what happened to this thing?" And then at a certain point, I was like, "What are you trying to say? Like, are you trying to say that I took it?" And she told me, "No, I'm not trying to say that you took it, but I'm just trying to ask you if you know where it is. And, like, I'll have respect for you if you do happen to know where it is and, you tell me, um, I might be able to amend this situation for you." That kind of thing. Where she was basically like, "I'm coming to you to give you the chance to confess to taking this thing." And at this point, again, I'm so furious because I'm like, I did not steal. I have never stolen from this company. And I can't believe that I'm being harassed about this. So what ended up happening with that is that she then said, "Okay, I asked you nicely. You're telling me that you didn't take it. So what we're gonna do is check the cameras." I'm sitting here like, that was an option? Like, if I had known that that was an option, I would have told you, you should have been checked the cameras. Because I'm not worried about what's on the cameras. And I remember that I was going to quit the job. I was actually going to quit the job. But fortunately, I had this coworker of mine who was just like, "Mark, don't let something that this person is doing to you your income." And I was like, "But she's disrespecting me. Like, she's accusing me of stealing." I'm telling her, like, "No, I did not steal. And I would not steal." And she's telling me, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" So that person ended up kind of advising me to just take a couple of days off from the job. She was like, "Take a couple of days off from the job, um, think about things, and then decide what you want to do from here, because I would hate to see you in a moment of anger just give up your way of living, give up your income based on something that this person is doing." So that ultimately was a fight and a battle that was not worth me really fighting. The boss checked the camera and saw who did it. They never came back to me to apologize for asking me, but it is what it is. If I had stood on business in that case, I would have not had the job. And it was something that could clearly be proven, like 100% you did not do this. So I'm not saying that I always say something, but I am saying that when it's something that I feel strongly about, morally, personally, I am willing to stand on something even at the expense sometimes of losing something, because I feel like some losses are not really losses. Let me see. Sears, my dad's favorite store. Hi, Prince. Back in the day, I was too chicken to confront a manager. Neither did I. The first time I ever really confronted a manager was probably like 2018, when I already had maybe 10 years plus in the workforce. I used to be the person who said nothing. And I would leave work and feel like I should have said something. Now that's not me. I evaluate, I think about it. I'm like, is it worth it to say something? What is my end goal? And I'll go from there. A lot of times when you do confront a manager to address disrespect, it's always your word against theirs. Like but you have to remember that what we're talking about is from a different era. You know, like when you say document everything, to document everything back in like 2000 and what was this? I'm trying to think back to what year this was. 2005. To document everything, I feel literally meant either you have a notebook or you go into HR for everything and have them write it down. Because documenting everything in this era, you know, you can type, you can write emails and stuff. I mean, emails existed in 2005, but that was not at all the primary documentation system at all. So it is a different time period that we're talking about. My sister had big issues at every job. Now, and the thing is, you assume that you'll have issues with the manager, or you assume that you have issues with the person that you're confronting, but it depends on how you're doing it. I want to give an example, but I can't really I can't really use this example because I always use past jobs as examples rather than present ones, because you never know who listens to what online. But this is just a really quick general one. I confronted a manager over a direction that was given to me that was inconsistent with my job description. And when I say confronted, I don't mean like I yelled at them or I disrespected them. I just mean I spoke to them about it in email form and in verbal form, being like, my job description was this and you're giving me this. And the math ain't mathing on that. So essentially, I'm sorry I have to wrap this up quick because I am now at my destination. But essentially, I didn't have to do that thing. That was the end result. I did not have to do that thing that they were trying to assign me to do. And if I had not been willing to say that, I would be doing that thing right now. Yeah. I have the math ain't mathing in my head because Nicole, Mimi from BB25, I'm going to see her on Wednesday for the first time in person. So I should get a compilation of my math ain't mathing stuff. I wish I had a video editor for that. Anyways, I'm off topic now. But thanks for joining me, y'all. I might pop back on here later, but now we are at work. So Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And subscribe to my other channel, please, because that's where I'm going to be much more than this channel once the Big Brother season starts. Mindful Reality. Please drop something in the comments because I would love for people to drop comments and so I can respond to the comments and maybe do a part 2 of this topic. Like, let me know what you think. What would you do in those various scenarios that I gave? And thanks, Colleen. All right, so Mindful Reality, just type in at Mindful Reality, no space in between, and subscribe to the page. All right, talk to you soon.